everybody, my name is Markiplier.
Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic.
Top of the morning to you ladies, my name is Jacksepticeye.
How's it going, bros? My name's PewDiePie.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie to 988 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet.
Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn.
Hey, I'm Grump, I'm not so Grump, and we're the Game Grumps.
Hello.
Hello, I'm a British person.
Shut up!
Hey, howdy, hey, fellow YouTubers, Wolfman, Force and Dasher. Welcome to another Let's Talk About Insert Something Here verse. So this time I'm going to be talking about the YouTuber-Verse, or rather most of the YouTuber-Verse, not like the whole entire thing. So, as we all know, anyone that goes on to YouTube, that rises to stardom on YouTube, started on YouTube, and then some of them went off to do their own thing on different websites and so forth, and others have remained on YouTube ever since. For me personally, I started on YouTube 20 years ago, and 20 years ago, not almost 20 years ago, and for a while I very rarely uploaded videos, and then a certain individual by the name of Clankzoker convinced me to think about maybe regularly uploading videos, and I've been doing that ever since. Finding my place, getting all the subscribers that I've got, please subscribe if you can, and all that. And after seeing a film by the one and only Markiplier, I decided let's take a look at some of the other things that certain people on the internet have made. Not necessarily all from YouTube, but the majority of these people made their start on YouTube and have either remained on YouTube or went onto their website and came back on YouTube, or have been on their website to do their own things. So yeah. So I'm not going to waste any more time, and just so we're clear, I've got no connections with any of these people. This is all my own opinions and everything, and there's going to be no bias or anything, even though there are some of these people that I do particularly like. So yeah, but obviously there's stuff that's happened behind the scenes as well. So yeah, anyway, let's get to it. So we'll start with the second year anniversary film or mini-series of Channel Awesome, or the channel formerly known as Channel Awesome. I'm not sure if there's still a thing now. I know Doug Walker's still doing stuff, but anyway, Kikassia. So this was released in 2010. As I say, it's the second year anniversary of Channel Awesome, after the previous year where they had a big massive ball, and that kind of saw the start of the channel and also the start of people doing crossovers and everything. And this one is based, and each of their anniversary videos is an attempt to sort of bring all the various popular people that are on Channel Awesome together for one big event. There was for years a lot of controversy around using the name ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com, because it was all self-absorbed by Doug Walker himself, and then it became Channel Awesome later on. Anyway, so in Kikassia, the Nostalgia Critic, played by Doug Walker, enlists the help of various internet celebrities, enlists the help of reviewers, internet personalities, and gamers that are all associated with Channel Awesome, in an attempt to take over the 1 acre micronation of Molossia and turn it into the self-titled Kikassia. Now, each time they do these Channel Awesome films, well, until recently, when almost everyone left the company for controversial reasons, there would be attempts to sort of combine everybody's different storylines into these anniversary films. But I think with Kikassia, this felt very much like a very one that's very much focused on the Nostalgia Critic and his allies, but it does sort of see characters like Spoonie's Dr. Insano appear. 2D Lee becomes 3D Lee, spoilers, and other things happen as well. So yeah, it's a parody of action and invasion kind of films, sort of war-based kind of films. It's very amateur, shot in a very amateur way, and there's parts where people that are not supposed to be there are there. The effects are very cheap and everything, and it is obviously going to be one of those things that's going to get very dated later in life. And And 16 years later, it's still very much dated, especially now with how everyone is with Channel Awesome these days. But I like how silly it is. I like how stupid it is, and it's definitely one of those things that I guess for out of all the Channel Awesome films, this felt like the only one where everyone had a lot of freedom because it was actually in the actual real life Molossia. It's only like a few members of staff from Channel Awesome were there. So from what I understand, they weren't necessarily all there and had to obey certain people. But anyway, I like the costumes, like some stuff about it, but it's definitely a very silly, very stupid kind of film. But I think that was the intention of it. So yeah, I'm going to give Kick-Ass a 7 out of 10. Now, the next person who's had a film is a person who is quite well known for having a very annoying voice. Not the Crazy Frog, not the Annoying Orange. No, I'm talking about a guy called Fred. Fred screams a lot, shouts a lot and everything, and he made 3 films, which I'm going to talk about today. And the first of them is simply called Fred the Movie. So this was written by David A. Goodman, directed by Clay Weiner. Sorry, that's a funny name. And produced by Brian Robbins, based on the adventures of the real-life Fred Figglehorn, a character created and played by Lucas Cruikshank for Cruikshank's YouTube channel, and is the first film in the Fred trilogy, of course. Also starring Shobin Fallon Hogan, a guy that I just can't see called John Cena. Do with that as you will. Who played Fred's parents. Pop singer and actress Pixie Lott as Fred's crush Judy. To be fair, Pixie Lott's a very attractive woman, so I don't exactly blame him for having a crush on her. And it was on Nickelodeon at one point. Oh, funny. Yeah, I don't know what to make of this, but Fred is a very annoying person in his personality. I just find his voice annoying. Hey, it's Fred. Yeah, it's annoying. Yeah. As you can probably tell, I did not like this film very much. I don't know why it existed. I don't even know why there's 3 films, but there you go. I'm not going to waste any time on it because it's a rare film that reached 0% Rotten Tomatoes, and comparing this to the Emoji Movie, this isn't actually. I don't know if this is like worse than the Emoji Movie or better than the Emoji Movie, but it's certainly at that sort of area where I'm just don't want anything to do with it. So I don't know. I'll give it a 1 out of 10. Yeah. So next we have a film called Paranoia, and just so that there's no confusion with the name, this is the 2011 film by Channel Awesome, Alamuni, Alamata, whatever you want to call it, Brad Jones, also known as the Cinema Snob. And he also does other things like midnight screenings and other things as well. So, in this film that he created, a serial killer is terrorising a small town. Mark Bishop has just killed an intruder who attacked him in his home. He's not sure if he killed the real serial killer, but he knows that he doesn't want the attention. He must get rid of the body and avoid the authorities, but he can't shake the feeling that the real killer is still out there. So it's a bit of a thriller kind of film. A thriller film featuring Brad Jones, who I think out of all the people on Channel Awesome is actually sort of taking filmmaking a bit more seriously. I don't know. I mean, this film wasn't too bad. It's still very sort of amateurish, but he's putting some effort into it, so I will give him that. It's probably going to be classed as one of those, as ironically the films that he reviews, which are sort of Z grade kind of films. But yeah, for what it was, I remember accidentally buying 2 DVDs of this. One I tried to sell off eBay, but I didn't get anywhere with it, and so I gave it to my parents instead. Paranoia. Not sure what else to make of it, but it's certainly one of those films that certainly feels like they're making a better attempt from the Channel Awesome crew. So I'll give it I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. And speaking of Channel Awesome, next is their 3rd year anniversary film, this time called Suburban Nights, which is a parody of I guess, fantasy and anything sort of tied to fantasy. So this time around, the Nostalgia Critic finds out that there's this thing called Malachite's Hand that he wants to take, and he enlists the help of the people on Channel Awesome. He enlists the help from people of Channel Awesome, and they all dress up in these as fantasy characters and set out to find, and split up into two teams to find Malachite's Hand. I heard that this film did have a lot of trouble during filming, in which it was just sort of unbearable just filming all the outdoor scenes, but they pulled through and everything because it was for the fans and everything. And compared to Kid Cassia, this was sort of released as a mini series, sort of, but again, with every part being shown pretty much every day until it ended. And it featured pretty much the majority of people that had filmed with Nostalgia Critic at some point or another, as well as other people that have filmed with other reviewers. And I think out of all these Channel Awesome films, this is probably the only one that that didn't really have much connections to each individual storylines apart from the Nostalgia Critics themselves, where Marty plays a major role in this. It's I think it could have been shot a little bit better, particularly the outdoor scenes, because the outdoor scenes just feel a bit, I don't know if it's to do with the saturation or whatever, but it just feels a little bit off. And again, very amateurish, but still a bit funny, very silly in it and everything, especially for a name like that. And I know there's at least some YouTubers that are sort of trying to find a way to continue the story from where that left off. Good luck with that, trying to get all of them back together. So M Nights, I'll give it 6 out of 10. Right, so next is the second of the Fred films, Fred 2, Night of the Living Fred, and that has a particular style which you'll see on the poster. Yeah, it's a bit weird. Anyway, so this was released in 2011. It's a horror comedy film, sequel to the first film, based on the character of Fred once again. Yada yada yada. It's a Halloween themed sequel and the second film in the trilogy, with certain cast members sort of being replaced and so forth, and all that. And this film, I'll just say that as a Halloween special, I mean, it's gonna be annoying because when you got a Halloween special starring a character that's easily scared and has an annoying voice, of course it's gonna get quite annoying very quickly from the get-go. So yeah, I don't want to waste too much time on it, but it's still a bit weird, still a bit strange, and it still stars a person I still can't see, called John Cena. And then certain people do return, I know Pixel returns through archive footage and other things. I don't know why she even associated herself with this, but anyway. So I don't know, Fred 2, I'll be a bit fair to it, because people did say it was a slight improvement over the first one, so I'll give it a 2 out of 10. And I'll finish the trilogy off by talking about Fred 3, Camp Fred. So this was released in 2012, directed by Jonathan Judge, third and final installment in the Fred trilogy, starring the guy that plays Fred, as well as Tom Arnold, Jake Weary, and the person that I still can't see, called John Cena. So will be very pleased that I made that joke. So, on the last day of school, Fred reveals his hopes to attend a very popular and luxurious summer camp. Okay, yeah, this is one of those films where you got characters that go to summer camp, which is a thing you Americans have. I think we got it here in the UK as well, but I'm not sure. But basically, everyone goes to camp. There's two rival camps. They try to compete to win the grand prize. Yeah, you get the idea with that. I've seen this before. It was in Wednesday. It was in the Addams Family films as well. And I'm pretty sure I've seen it in other things too. It's even in some of the games that I've got from Humble Choice. So yeah, nothing really new to me, and this doesn't really add much to it, apart from it's still as annoying as ever. So yeah, I'm gonna say this will be on par with Fred 2 even. So I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 10 as well. bringing us on to the third and final of the anniversary films for Channel Awesome. Because after this one, there was like an anthology series, so I don't really count. So after this one, there was like the next anniversary was an anthology series with nothing that really connected and so forth. So I'll just count it as that. But anyway, so To Boldly Flee. So, as you might expect, this one is a sci-fi parody. So this time round, Nostalgia Critic is sort of feeling the guilt of Marty dying in the previous film. Spoilers. So he then uncovers a series of mysterious events that unfold, which could shape the very fabric of internet critics as we know it, as it says on the IMDb page. So he once again enlists the help of everyone available. This time, sort of begging them to help him figure out what's going on with Marty. And what was really nice about this one is that it didn't actually start out like the previous ones where everyone was already together. It actually they kind of left it until the second part before everyone was all together, and there was even more attempts to try and combine people's storylines. So there was Mecha Kara from the Atop the Fourth Wall series was in this. General Zod and Doug Walker's other characters make an appearance. The love triangle between Todd and the Shadows, Nostalgia Chick, and Obscurus Looper was in this. And they even try to throw in a bit of gaming in there as well. Even Angry Joe's satellite appears and everything. So yeah, a better effort to try and sort of combine different storylines and elements into this compared to previous films, which I think is great. Does it mean it's any better than previous ones? I don't think so, because first of all, if you combine all the parts together, it's as long as Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. So do with that as you will. And also, something that you might be interested to know is that when you do actually buy these things on DVD, they do actually add some extra scenes that are exclusive to DVD. So I kind of knew this was going to be a sci-fi one, because the sort of new ending of Suburban Nights, which you get on the DVD, sort of implied that it would be that the next one would be a sci-fi one, and this was obviously it, with Nostalgia Critic doing a Star Trek month, the sort of further into that. And yeah, most people would also see this as like the ending of the Nostalgia Critic's original one, because originally this film was meant to sort of see the end of Nostalgia Critic, but then he obviously came back due to popular demand, and has been going ever since. But so yeah, I like the costumes. I like the idea of a house flying into space, and I thought the CGI elements were not like sort of blockbuster Hollywood like fantastic. Obviously it will be very dated straight away, but good efforts on them. And so I like the 3D models, and yeah, I thought it was fine. Yeah, not much to it. But I think it's probably the best of the ones, because of the efforts of trying to combine the four storylines together. However, there is still some controversy that happened behind the scenes, which does make me not want to give it a high rating. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10, I think. Yeah. So next, we move on to the Cinema Snob movie. So this is obviously the movie about Brad Jones's main character, Cinema Snob. Although in this film, the Cinema Snob isn't called Brad Jones; it's called Craig for some reason. Do with that as you will. So when an exploitation filmmaker goes undercover as a pretentious film snob to obtain proper filming permits, he is thrust into a strange mystery surrounding the very secretive film commission. Okay, so this is basically one of those, basically a film where it's not exactly to do with the Cinema Snob we know and love. It's to do with an alternative Cinema Snob, let's say, who does this to sort of try and get people involved. And what I like about this one compared to compared to Brad Jones's previous film is that there is actually a lot more familiar faces in this. So it's not just his own group of friends. There's also, and obviously his wife, because I think he's married as well. Spoonie, the guy that plays Spoonie, makes an appearance in this, as do other people as well, well known in the Channel Awesome space. But I don't know. It was alright. It was alright. Not much else to say than that. And although I think the only thing that kind of put me off it was probably the sex scene, because there is a sex scene in this, and I just didn't feel right about it. But anyway, so Cinema Snob movie, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 as well. So now we move on to a person called Ashens, who I think was associated with Channel Awesome at one point or another, or maybe not. But anyway, if you don't know who he is, he's quite well known for doing those sort of videos where he's sort of buying random things and sort of showing how weird and off-putting they are. And it's not like the traditional way. It's like where you like see a guy and he unboxes stuff and everything. No. He does it all on a sofa where you see his hands and everything, but you don't actually see him. And I think he does other things as well. And he also made 2 films. I think he also made a third one, but I'm only just going to cover 2 films today. And as I say that, there's work going on in the background, so I'll just do my best with the work that's going on. So first film of Ashens is Ashens and the Quest for the Game Child. So Ashens embarks on a quest to find the legendary and elusive piece of electronic tat known as the Game Child. The Game Child in question kind of looking like a sort of Game Boy. So in a bizarre twist, in addition to actually starring Ashens himself, Warwick Davis is in this. Yeah, one of the biggest stars on the planet found his way into an amateur internet personalities film like this, and I think this one was alright. I thought it was very entertaining, as Ashens is meant to be. I liked the stop motion elements that it had with the claymation and everything, and I thought it was good. So for what it was, so Ashens and the Quest for the Game Child, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. So next we move on to a film called Nerd Quest. So this is the unofficial Channel Awesome film that stars I guess all the British or those that are based in the UK that are associated with Channel Awesome. So the likes of Film Brain, Barry Chudd Jr., whatever his name is, the Mike Jevons and others. So in this film, a group of nerd enthusiasts head to the woods of Bristol to partake in a LARPing session. When the bodies start piling up, the surviving LARP players will have to distinguish between what is part of the game and what is real if they are to survive. Okay, so this is so I guess this is kind of like a continuation of Suburban Nights in a way, but sees all these people trying to sort of figuring out the difference between LARPing and the real thing. So, an interesting idea and so forth. And it's written and directed by Mike Jevons, who, for those who don't know, is the guy that plays the sort of English person on Channel Awesome, reviewing stuff and all that. I thought this was alright. I think it was definitely well made and probably well presented and everything compared to Channel Awesome's main films, but I don't know. They're kind of indistinguishable and everything. But anyway, I'm going to give Nerd Quest a 8 out of 10. I think it's probably the best one of the Channel Awesome lot, but do with that as you will. So, one of the earliest internet celebrities that was on YouTube for a while and is part of a company called Cinemassacre is Mr. James Rolfe, who everyone knows as the Angry Video Game Nerd. And for years he's been sort of saying that he might be doing a film based on around his character, and he ended up doing that and it's known simply as the Angry Video Game Nerd the movie, or AVGN the movie if you want to abbreviate it. So this was released in 2014, independent science fiction adventure comedy film, written and directed by the man himself, as well as his friend Kevin Finn in their feature directorial debuts. based on the web series of the same name, created by Rolf, who stars in the role. Also stars Jeremy Swartz, how to pronounce the name right, Sarah Glendane, Stephen Mendel, Time Winters, interesting name, Helena Barrett, and Robbie West, all featuring in supporting roles. Story centers around the then urban legend of the mass burial of millions of copies of the 1982 Atari 2600 video game E.T. the Extraterrestrial, proclaimed as the worst video game of all time. After a landsliding refusal to address the game in his web series, the nerd succumbs to pressure by fans to review the game, embarking on a quest to prove that there is nothing buried there. However, the crew is pursued by federal authorities led by the villainous General Dark Onward, who believes he is investigating Area 51 and the crash of an unidentified flying object. Let's see. So, yeah, the Angry Video Game Nerd has been hinting towards possibly playing the infamous E.T. game at some point or another in his series. I do remember the very video where he did actually say that. So I'm kind of glad that for the film he decided, yeah, he's gonna actually properly talk about and review it if he could. This film is, I don't know, there's a lot of things that don't quite make sense to me. There's like bits where a character falls to his death and then suddenly comes back up again. Like, okay, that's weird. And again, it's kind of silly, kind of stupid. But it does sort of like have it has a good soundtrack, you know, good visual effects, and it's very faithful to the web series. It's just the length I think could have been better, the script could have been better, and the pacing obviously could have been better, just like with everyone else that's talked about this. So yeah. So the Angry Video Game Nerd movie, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. And when I was making the list for this video, I actually forgot to include the Angry Video Game Nerd video games, so let's quickly talk about those. So, the Angry Video Game Nerd had 2 video games. I'll just address them together instead of separately. It's basically both 2D platforming pixelated games with a soundtrack and an interesting imagery and everything. So do with that as you will. And yeah, it's just a bit of fun, I guess. I don't really remember much else from them apart from they were weird, silly, and also there was like a world in one of them where it's like very risque with nudity and everything. So if you ever do a series on YouTube for that game, just bear that in mind. But I think that's certainly a lot more entertaining than the film was, I think. So yeah, I'll give both the video games an 8 out of 10 on that basis alone. So you probably are all familiar with the team known as Smosh. These are a group of young people, majority of which are very attractive, I must admit, and led by Anthony Padilla and Ian Hearcox. And because of their popularity, they of course did get a movie, simply known as Smosh the Movie. So this was released in 2015, was directed by Alex Winter, written by Eric Falconer and Steve Marble, with Brian Robbins and Shauna Phelan serving as producers. Starring in this film alongside Anthony and Ian are Julian Nelson, Brittany Ross, Jenny Marbles, Grace Helberg, Markiplier himself, Harley Morenstein, and Michael Ian Black. And I apologise if I didn't mention their YouTube names, if they're all YouTubers, all starring in supporting roles. First feature-length film revolves around a fictionalised version of Ian and Anthony going inside YouTube virtually to alter a clip that will ruin Anthony's chance of winning over his high school crush in an upcoming reunion. So, yeah. This is definitely a film that was made for the fans of Smosh, and it definitely feels like the sort of thing that they would do, and the whole sort of trying to find a crush and everything, not too surprised about that. And it's very much a buddy film with that. I don't know, it doesn't really add too much to what's already there in originality wise, but I think when you got some YouTubers sort of taking center stage, it depends on how long their videos are. Some of them make these long videos, and that's usually okay, but then there's some that are kind of better off just being short videos, and no offense to the Smosh guys, but given the way they are, don't get me wrong, they are very entertaining people and everything. I do think they're not as annoying as most others, but yeah, when they do shorts videos that are sort of annoying, but annoying in a good way, it's kind of best that you don't do a feature film that does that as well, because yeah, this is one that doesn't quite work for me. But it's alright. Certainly not better than the Fred films, for sure. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. So another atop the four. So another Channel Awesome kind of movie now. This time it's Atop the Fourth Wall, the movie. So this is, so for those who don't know, Atop the Fourth Wall is a series by the Lewis Lovehog, also known online as Linkara, who reviews the worst of the worst when it comes to comic books. Comics in a sort of similar style to how Nostalgia Critic reviews his films, but obviously with it being a comic book, he has to read it and everything, so he puts more effort. And he also has various storylines going on as well with different characters. And I'm not too surprised that he eventually had his own film, and it kind of feels like what the Channel Also films should have been. You know, list a group of internet celebrities together, and just have a blast and have fun, not have to worry about the controversy behind the scenes. And that's certainly what I got with this. And I know it's not technically an official Channel Awesome film, but there were some people at Channel Awesome that were saying, "Oh no, you can't do that." So yeah. Anyway, so Todd Fourth Wall, the movie, which comic book reviewer gears up to save the world from the forces of ultimate evil, which sounds like a very generic kind of plot, but there you go. It pretty much stars a large majority of Channel Awesome crew. So Nash is in this, Cinema Snob's in this, Nicara obviously, Oscurus Looper, Mars Girl, Angry Joe, Doug Walker appears in this briefly as well. Bennett the Sage as well. So yeah, a lot of people. Brian Hines as well, and yeah, basically a lot of people that were associated with Channel Awesome that are all friends with Ankara. I think it's probably, I don't know if it's like the best of the Channel Awesome films, but it's certainly one that does feel much more like a sort of Channel Awesome film as it's supposed to be. And a lot of people do say that Linkara should have been the head of Channel Awesome all along after Doug Walker left. But anyway, well, Doug Walker's in the Nostalgia Critic left. But anyway, so to the Fourth Wall movie, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. So now we come to Ashen's second film, simply known as Ashen's and the Polybus Heist. So in this film that obviously stars Ashen's, I'm waiting for the thing to load. A motley crew of misfits hunt down an infamous 80s arcade game that can supposedly control people's minds. So this is basically a heist film that has Ashen's and his pals sort of trying to steal this thing from this evil guy, and yeah, you kind of get the idea of that. It doesn't really add anything new to the table or anything other than Ashen's sort of sense of humour, style and everything, and it's a bit of fun and bit of retro, and does feel like a blockbuster kind of film in a way compared to his previous film, although I think both films are done very well. So yeah, I'm not going to waste any more time on this, but yeah, I do think Ashen's is a great YouTuber anyway. So Ashen's and the Polybus Heist, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So now we move on to a duo of YouTubers known online as Raka Raka, who are Australian YouTubers. One being called Danny Philip, basically brothers or cousins or whatever. Anyway, so they made 2 films and are hoping to be making more films, and I think they probably have done other films as well, but I'm just going to focus on the 2 that I've seen. And the first of them is Talk to Me. So this was released in 2022, Australian supernatural horror film, and was written by one half of the YouTuber duo, and Brian Heisman, and it's based on concept by Daley Pearson, and it stars Sophie Wilde, Alexandra Jensen, Joe Bird, Otis Dianji, Miranda Otto, Zoe Terekas, Chris Olsio, Marcus Johnson, and Alexandria Stephenstein, Following a group of teenagers to discover that they can connect spirits using a mysterious severed and embalmed hand. I saw this advertised a lot, and to begin with, I wasn't actually sure if I would actually like or enjoy this, but Kagsoka decided he wanted to go see it, so I accompanied him, and it's definitely one of those sort of very twisted kind of horrors where it's quite simply you just put your hand out on this hand and you get to talk to spirits and everything, and you know, it kind of I guess this one character gets so addicted to it that it kind of becomes a bit of an addiction, and then things happen and transpire and everything, and yeah, you get the idea with that. It was distributed by A24 here in the UK. I don't know if it was distributed by A24 in other countries, but yeah, it was an interesting film. Definitely dark, twisted, and horror-like, and certainly a sort of horror thing you should have. Definitely a sort of horror thing that it should be what it is and everything. Because lots of horrors these days are just not as scary as they are, and this one, you know, does have a very scary sort of element to it for sure. So it's definitely well made and all that. So I'm going to give it a 8 out of 10. Excuse me. And which brings us on to their second film, which was released last year that I missed at the cinema because I was busy, called Bring Her Back. So this is a supernatural folk horror, once again distributed by distributed by Stage 6 Films, which is accompanied by Sony Pictures. They wrote the screenplay with Bill Harsman, stars Billy Barrett, Sora Wong, Jonah Ren Phillips, and the legend that is Sally Hawkins. Film follows two step-siblings who find themselves orphaned and placed in the middle of an occult ritual by their new foster mother. So, yeah, Sally Hawkins. I've seen her play like Good Mothers. I've seen her play a character that's deaf that befriended and then fell in love with an alien creature, with a creature of some kind. And this one is kind of similar to her mother roles, but different because previously she's played a mother that's like very much as much of a mother as you can get, whereas this time it's a mother who has a very dark and twisted side to her. And yeah, I can definitely say this was dark and twisted. And not only that, but there's this character that she's trying to sort of bring a person back into is sort of eating anything and everything, even a knife, which made my stomach feel weird afterwards. I will admit, it's a messed up kind of film. Definitely, it's a fucked up, messed up kind of film. Definitely twisted and everything, and it's probably a film that I'm not going to see again just because of how messed up and so forth it is. But I did enjoy it for what it was, so I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. And that's probably the highest rating I'm going to give to all these films at this point in time. Now, if you're familiar with the YouTuber Boogie2988, you'll know that he's hit a lot of controversy recently with regards to just the questionable acts that he's done, and also the fact that he's nearly or has become sort of broke, which has led to him sort of having all this stuff. He used to be like one of these big major YouTubers that was like the original YouTubers, and then things have happened behind the scenes and everything, and he's now kind of fully embraced his Francis character. But anyway, so there was a guy on YouTube that did a short documentary about him, and it's called The Dark Sad Life of Boogie2988. So Boogie2988 was one of the original YouTuber stars. He started his YouTubing career not long after YouTube became a thing. Well known for his Francis characters, and also one of being probably one of the biggest YouTubers, as in like size wise. And despite what he has done over the years, there's stuff that he's done. Like he's had, like, this film kind of makes out that he's a very sad, a very tragic kind of person and everything. And he's done all this stuff, and I think the documentary is trying to make people like myself try and feel sorry for him, but I don't feel sorry for him, because this guy had sex workers. This guy demanded money back from a charity. This guy, he's a convicted felon and everything. So I don't feel sorry for him at all. I'm sure he does sound like a nice person in real life, but on camera and after seeing this and everything, I just don't know what to make of him. He kept saying in the documentary that he has autism, which I kind of sort of get and understand in a way. I mean, I'm autistic myself, so I do know about this, but yeah, and it was interesting because in this documentary, the guy that was actually making the documentary actually decided to take a break from Boogie at one point, which kind of sort of speaks volumes. When this guy that's trying to do a documentary about you actually walks away from you, that's kind of like saying that this is a person that you don't really want to like spend too long with and everything, and that's certainly the vibe I got from this. So yeah, I mean, I've always been fascinated by everything that Boogie 2988 has done. I've always heard all sorts of controversy around him, so this documentary did definitely served its purpose. It gave me a sort of better understanding of the person, but as I say, it still doesn't make me feel sorry. It doesn't make me feel sorry for him at all because he's done stuff and everything. So yeah. So the Dark Sad Life of Boogie 2988, as in the documentary, not the actual Dark Sad Life of Boogie 2988, even though it is about him. I'm going to give it a 8 out of 10 only because it actually sort of made me hate him even more. So it did kind of do something right, but yeah, I have no sympathy for him even after this documentary. So yeah. So now we come to the sequel to the Cinema Snob movie, simply known as Another Cinema Snob movie. So in this one, after portraying the original YouTuber character Cinema Snob for many years, the character Craig, that's played by Brad Jones, goes off to release an original film to theatres. So this feels like a very Channel Awesome orientated kind of film, and also released kind of after the controversy around Channel Awesome, leading to most of the creators leaving, apart from Brad Jones, the Walker Brothers, and Larry Brandy Jr., who has since left Channel Awesome. So in this film, you got Craig, and you got Rob Walker playing his sort of director buddy character. The pair of them alongside Tamara Chambers and another person I forget the name of. They go on a sort of road trip to try and meet Brad's dad, and they come across a series of characters along the way, all played by people that you probably recognise but maybe don't recognise. Like I know Doug Walker appears at one point, Malcolm Ray appears at one point as well, and yeah, it's largely a film that features the sort of nostalgia critic crew and the Cinema Snob crew, with others thrown in for good measure as well. So it's a bit of a mix of both worlds, and technically an unofficial crossover between the worlds of Brad Jones and Doug Walker. So yeah. And I'm not too surprised that the Walker Brothers and others made an appearance in this, because after everything that happened with the controversy, it did kind of mean that they had more time to spare. So that kind of is the reason why they all make an appearance in this. I found a way to watch this somehow without spending any money, which I will confess to now. I thought it was alright. It's definitely sarcastic, definitely funny and everything. Probably better than the first film in a way, but yeah, it's... And, after doing three films and possibly others I've forgotten about, this is certainly a much better film by Brad Jones for sure, out of all the films he's done. So I'm going to give it a 8 out of 10. On the basis that is actually honestly genuinely funny. So yeah. Right, so we now return to the world of video games, and now we talk about PewDiePie's first video game, Legend of the Brofist. So this is a 2D side-scrolling action-adventure platform video game developed and published by Canadian-based indie development studio Atomize Inc. in collaboration with PewDiePie. Released for iOS and Android in 2015, becoming the top-grossing paid game in the App Store in the US, and also released on other platforms as well. And it's kind of one of those games which PewDiePie has been wanting to make for so long, and then he finally managed to make it. And as well as himself, and as well as pop culture references and references to his previous videos, it also stars Cinnamon Toast Ken, Markiplier, Chaotic, Jacksepticeye, and Cutie Pie Marzia, who all lend voices. Two-dimensional platform video game in its own fictional universe, and it's basically a battle enemy attempts to steal PewDiePie's YouTube fans, and the player embarks on an adventure to save them by completing quests, defeating bosses, and collecting bitcoins. And you get to play as PewDiePie, Cutie Pie, Marzia, and their pet pugs. Featuring voice actors from all the people I've mentioned. Yada yada yada. Yeah, it's very retro, very fun, and if you want a game that's sort of retro, fun, but also has a modern twist to it, you'll certainly get this here. And I did have fun with it when I did play it. I've not yet played. I don't think I've played it for this channel yet, but I know I have played it previously because it will show on my Steam page that I have actually played it. So yeah, but PewDiePie Legend of Brofist, good fun. So 9 out of 10. So next is Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator, which was developed and published by Game Grumps, another well-known YouTube channel. So this is a visual novel video game released for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it's written by Vernon Shaw and Leighton Gray, and it has a director's cut, as it's called, for its release on the PlayStation 4. For its release on the PlayStation 4, the update on the PC version, and it's released on Nintendo Switch. So it's an interactive visual novel where the player can choose between seven different single fathers they can date, with as I understand, each of the fathers having some kind of resemblance to some major YouTubers at the time. And you basically play as a widowed father who was moved to a new house in Maple Bay with his teenage daughter Amanda on a cul-de-sac where he lives. Most of the fathers are single, and the player has the option of romancing them. And yeah, you get to romance each of them. I think I did remember playing this on YouTube, and I remember it having some interesting elements where it kind of breaks away from the visual novel part and goes into a sort of completely different video game with its style and everything. So I really liked that. It's probably one of those games that you either going to like or not going to like, depending on your views on LGBTQIA, I guess. But I kind of sort of enjoyed it when I played it, from what I remember, so I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. So now on to PewDiePie's next game called Tuber Simulator, which I swear I've played something similar, but I don't know. But anyway, so this is a freemium simulation mobile game developed by Outimize Inc., featuring PewDiePie, who voices himself. The premise focuses on the player creating online videos for views and subscribers. That's familiar, isn't it? The form of which they can use to purchase goods that can increase performance. Don't worry, I'm not going to do that in real life when I get to that stage, I hope anyway. So it was released in 2016, became Apple App Store's top download on release day, and it's been downloaded over 10 million times, which is quite crazy. And it experienced issues in its initial launch, as to be expected with games that are released at launch. And yeah, it's basically, if you want the experience of being a YouTuber, you can do that. Obviously, you can make your own videos and everything like I do, and do it your way. But if you want a sort of game that sort of lets you experience that and sort of gives you the stardom and everything, and this is definitely it for sure. I played a bit of it in preparation for this video, and yeah, it's actually pretty straightforward and easy to understand, and has a retro feel to it because it's very pixelated once again. So yeah, I probably should play a bit more, but for now I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. And that finally brings us on to the latest release from a well-known YouTuber, which is Iron Lung. So those of you who are not too familiar with Iron Lung, this is based on a video game that Markiplier played on his channel, and he famously said they wanted to create a film based on the game, which and this is the end result, because he loved it so much. And he has since said that he's not going to be doing like video game films all the time, because he does want to venture out into other things as well. But anyway, so this was released this year, 2026, independent science fiction horror film Written, edited and directed by Markiplier himself. Based on a 2022 video game by David Szymanski. Hope that... I apologise if I'm pronouncing that name wrong. Starring Markiplier himself, Caroline Kaplan, Troy Baker, Elise Lovelock, Ella Lamont, Mike Law, Jacksepticeye himself, and Isaac McKee. It follows a convict played by Markiplier who is forced to pilot a submarine through a desolate moon's ocean of blood after an event known as the Quiet Rapture causes most humans and all stars to disappear without warning. So this is kind of one of those films that's focused mainly on one character, but does feature the voices and appearances of other characters as well, and it's very much a very claustrophobic kind of film, and it's sort of an experience kind of film. And I like films that just focus on one person trying to escape their sort of hell, let's say. I've seen similar things before. I've seen one that stars Ryan Reynolds. I've seen one that has Sandra Bullock in it. And I've seen a few others as well, and this is certainly follows those sorts of formulas and everything. I've not played the game in question, but I can definitely say I did thoroughly enjoy this because it's very intense, very brutal, and everything. It's probably not going to be to everyone's taste because I know Clank Soka didn't particularly like it very much, but was fair to it all the same because both of us do like Markiplier, so biased or whatever, do with that as you will. I certainly enjoyed this. I thought the acting from Markiplier may have been a little bit comedic, unintentionally, but otherwise convincing in a way, as was the acting from everyone else that was in this, voices, physically or whatever. So Iron Lung, I'm gonna be fair and I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10, which may or may not be against what I said on Letterboxd, but there you go. And that is it for the YouTuber-Verse films and video games. There probably is others that I've intentionally missed out on the basis that I've not actually watched them, or I've not watched the YouTubers that starred in them. But yeah, that's what I've got to say about all these films. And as I say, I'm not connected or associated with any of these people whatsoever, apart from that I've played some of their games and obviously seen some of their films as well. So yeah, so that's what I've got to say. Fire off in the comments below. Let me know what you think, what you like, what you don't like about these, if you've seen them or played them or whatever. And also, I hope that by having a look at these, it's kind of convinced you that you might want to do your own sort of films and that as well. Because I think when you got YouTubers that have become so successful on YouTube, being able to sort of create their own video games and create their own films, it's a great feeling to have for them, because it just means that they've done so well in life that they've managed to do just that, which I think is a great thing. So yeah, but anyway, that's what I've got to say about it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you can, please, if you're new to the channel. I do vlogs like these usually on a Thursday, but as it's like a review of the latest thing, I do it over the weekend. In addition to that, I also do gaming videos on Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So on Monday and Tuesdays, it's a gameplay series video, part of a series of videos for a long game I'm playing through at the moment, on in between 4 different games. And every Wednesday, it's a Let's Play video of a completely random game. Requests are welcome. Thursdays I do vlogs like these, but various topics and so forth. Requests are welcome for that as well. And as well as reviewing the latest things and things leading up to the latest thing, I also do hauls, rants on life, videos with friends, gameplay compilation videos, my board game bundle, shorts, and loads more. See you in the next one. Peace to you all. And yeah, I don't know if I'll ever make my own video game or make my own film. Maybe one day, we'll see. But I'm quite happy with how I am for now. But you know, just based on how these people have done well alone, you know, I hope that convinces you that that if they can do it, you can do it as well. You just need to put all the work in, get the money in, and everything, and you'll definitely get there for sure. So yeah, all right, doodles.
I am a man!
I'm in tremendous pain! I'm in tremendous pain! Help me! Help me! Help me! I'm in so much pain! I'm in so much pain! I'm in so much pain!